The Meditation Hall and the Ideals of the Monkish Discipline, Daisetsu T Suzuki. To get a glimpse into the practical and disciplinary side of Zen, we have to study the institution known as the Meditation Hall. It is an educational system quite peculiar to the Zen sect. Most of the main monasteries belonging to this sect are provided with meditation halls, and in the life of the Zen monk more than anywhere else, we are reminded of that of the Buddhist Brotherhood, Samgha, in India. This system was founded by the Chinese Zen master Hyakujo, Pai Chang, 720 to 814, more than 1,000 years ago. Until his time, the monks used to live in monasteries belonging to the Vinaya sect, which were governed by a spirit not quite in accordance with the principles of Zen. As Zen grew more and more flourishing and its followers continued to increase in number and influence, there arose a need for its own institution, exclusively devoted to the promotion of its objects. According to Hyakujo, the Zen monasteries were to be neither Hinayanistic nor Mahayanistic, but would unite the disciplinary methods of both schools in a new and original manner, best suited to the realization of the Zen ideals as they were conceived by the masters of earlier days. The original book compiled by Hyakujo, giving detailed regulations of the Zen monastery, was lost. The one now extant was compiled during the Yuan dynasty from the actual life in the monastery at that time, which was then supposed to be a faithful continuation of the old institution, though naturally with some modifications due to historical exigencies. In Japan, the Zen monasteries have never been established on so grand a scale as in China, so all the regulations detailed in the imperial edition were not practiced. But their spirit and all that was applicable to Japanese life and conditions were adopted. The ideals of Zen life were never lost sight of anywhere. Before proceeding further, it is important to speak briefly of one such ideal set before the eyes of all Zen students, for it is really the most important and noteworthy feature in the monastery life of Zen. This ideal distinguishes Zen from other Buddhist schools originating in China and is considered the most characteristically Zen while also animating its long history. This is the notion of work or service. Hyakujo left a famous saying that was the guiding principle of his life and preeminently the spirit of the meditation hall: no work, no eating. When he was thought by his disciples too old to work in the garden, his daily occupation besides lecturing and educating the monks, they hid his implements, as he would not listen to their repeated oral remonstrances. He then refused to eat, saying, "No work, no eating." At all the meditation halls, work is considered a vital element in the life of a monk. It is chiefly manual labor: sweeping, cleaning, cooking, gathering fuel, tilling the farm, or begging in the villages. No work is beneath their dignity, and a spirit of brotherhood and democracy prevails among them. They believe in the sanctity of manual labor and keep themselves busy in every possible way. Thus they are no idlers, at least physically. We see in this sanctification of work the practical attitude of the Chinese mind well reflected. It has served as an efficient agency in preserving the health and sanity of Zen Buddhism throughout its history. Beyond any ethical or economic idea, Hyakujo must have had a profound knowledge of human psychology in making work the ruling spirit of monastery life. For those prone to meditative habits, manual labor prevents mental inactivity or unbalanced mental development. Zen places great emphasis on transcending the dualistic conception of flesh and spirit, ensuring that the nerves and muscles are obedient servants of the mind. Because reflection is tested by action, Zen remains healthy and practical instead of deteriorating into quietism or becoming lost in visionary practices. Apart from these psychological considerations, there is also a moral reason not to be overlooked. Ideas in Zen must be tested in daily living. In Zen especially, abstraction that cannot be lived out and proven in practical reality has no value. Thus the entire spirit of Hyakujo's saying, "no work, no eating," implies that one must work out one's spiritual insights in everyday life in order to be truly convinced of them. Whatever else may be said, this gospel of work has become one of the most emphasized religious ideals in Zen. It reflects a characteristic blend of practicality and profound inwardness. Serving others and doing work for others, secretly and without pride, constitutes the practical expression of their faith. One Zen poet exclaims, "How wondrously supernatural, and how miraculous this! I draw water, and I carry fuel." This spirit resonates with mystical teachings in other traditions. Tauler made spinning and shoemaking homely gifts of the Holy Ghost. Brother Lawrence made cooking sacramental. George Herbert wrote, "Who sweeps a room as to thy laws, makes that and the action fine." Far from dreamy idleness, the Zen monk is constantly active. Psychological reasoning supports this, for the mystics, including Zen followers, believe that genuine experience must be put to practical test. The meditation hall, Zendo in Japanese, Chantang in Chinese, is generally a rectangular building of various sizes, depending on the number of monks. Along the longer sides of the building, a raised floor of about 8 feet wide and 3 feet high provides space for sitting, meditating, and sleeping. In the middle is an empty corridor used for walking meditation, known as kinhin, sutra walking. The space allotted each monk is typically one tatami mat, where he sits, meditates, and sleeps. The bedding is minimal, one wadded quilt used year-round. There is no pillow except what can be improvised from personal belongings. Those personal possessions are reduced to the barest minimum: a kesa, priestly garment, a koromo, robe, a few books, a razor, and a set of bowls, all contained in a box about a foot square and only a few inches high. Traveling monks carry this box in front of them with a sash around the neck. This arrangement reflects the Zen aspiration to reduce desires, which Buddhism holds to be a principal source of misery in the world. Though much simpler than a typical secular life, this discipline does not mean that Zen advocates a harsh asceticism. Rather, the monks aim to make the best possible use of things as they are given, devoting every faculty, intellectual and physical, to spiritual development rather than worldly gratifications and desires. This is the inner meaning behind the simplicity and poverty of the monkish life. An illuminating admonition appears in the writings of Daito, the national teacher, 1282 to 1337. He founded Daitokuji, Kyoto, but spent long periods among the poorest people, begging and doing all manner of menial tasks. His final instructions to his disciples reflect the spirit of simplicity and sincerity. He rebukes those who merely show outward signs of piety or live in comfort yet fail to apply themselves single-mindedly to the study of the intransmissible way of the Buddhas and patriarchs. Despite all the supposed virtues and pious deeds, if their thoughts do not dwell on the essence of Zen, they may injure the faith rather than serve it. He contrasts them with someone who lives poorly in a hut, cooking wild vegetables in a broken pot, but who earnestly strives to clarify spiritual truth. That person, though despised by society, knows the way more intimately. In India, Buddhist monks eat once a day, but in China and Japan, a customary evening meal was introduced, justified as medicinal food in response to climatic conditions. The Zen monk's day typically begins very early, with a simple breakfast of rice gruel and pickled vegetables. The principal meal, around 10 a.m., consists of plain rice or rice mixed with barley, vegetable soup, and pickles. In the late afternoon, some of what remains from the midday meal may be consumed without formal cooking. Day after day, year after year, they follow this Spartan regimen. Table manners in the Zen monastery embody its discipline. At mealtime, when the gong rings, monks process in and sit at bare tables. Each carries a set of bowls, lacquered wood or paper, placed in front of them. While the servers ladle soup and rice, the monks chant the Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra and meditate on the significance of eating, reflecting on the worthiness of receiving such offerings and vowing to realize enlightenment for the sake of all beings. Before eating the first mouthful, they place a few grains aside for the unseen spirits. Silence prevails during the meal. Only discreet signals are used if a monk wishes more or less food. The meal is to be fully consumed, leaving no waste. At the end, hot water is brought to rinse and wipe the bowls. Slops are carefully collected, and everything is left spotless. Finally, short prayers of gratitude are offered, and the monks leave as they came. A Zen monastery is characterized by industry. Except on days set aside for study, monks rise early and engage in chores, cleaning, begging, working in the monastery fields, or gathering fuel. Everything is kept in impeccable order. They may travel miles to beg rice or vegetables, or load carts with produce for the community. They are farmers, laborers, sometimes skilled workmen, and they often construct or repair their own buildings. In these activities, the master finds countless opportunities to guide disciples. Indeed, Zen records abound with stories of everyday tasks, sweeping, farming, tending fire, becoming occasions for profound religious insight. The community is also self-governing. Each monastery has a cook, proctor, manager, sexton, and master of ceremonies, typically chosen from among the more senior and tested monks. The Zen teacher or master presides like a spiritual center, but ordinarily he does not interfere with the details of governance, trusting the designated officers to manage. Such discipline is not mere physical labor. For a religion that sees truth as something to be realized beyond words, direct action and the lessons derived from it become central. Leading a harsh or meager life does not mean that Zen honors asceticism for its own sake. The guiding principle is to live without waste and do the simplest tasks wholeheartedly, thereby avoiding the pitfalls of intellectual pride or impractical mysticism. A distinctive Zen practice is sesshin, meaning collecting the mind. Once a month during the summer sojourn, April to August, and winter sojourn, October to February, monks observe a week-long period devoted to intensified training. They are confined mostly to the zendo, rising earlier and retiring later. During session, manual tasks are reduced to essentials, allowing more continuous meditation and study. Daily, the master may give a formal lecture, teisho, based on texts like the Hekiganshu or the Rinzai Roku, fundamental works of the Rinzai school. The Rinzai Roku is a collection of sermons by the founder of Rinzai Zen. The Hekiganshu is a compilation of Zen cases or themes, each followed by commentary and verse. To an uninitiated reader, these texts can seem obscure, even nonsensical, but a Zen student is expected to approach them with insight, gained through meditation and direct experience, rather than purely intellectual analysis. Lectures are solemn events. A bell announces the master's arrival, incense is offered, and the monks chant sutras or verses expressing devotion and awakening. One popular chant is Hakuin's Song of Meditation, which celebrates the fundamental Buddhist doctrine that all beings are from the very beginning Buddhas. Another common recitation is the short exhortation left by a great patriarch. After this communal chanting, the master delivers a short discourse, typically pointing to the heart of Zen in direct, often paradoxical language. A concluding chant of the four great vows follows. How innumerable sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. How inexhaustible our evil passions are, I vow to exterminate them. How immeasurable the holy doctrines are, I vow to study them. How inaccessible the path of Buddhas is, I vow to attain it. Another central feature of sesshin is sanzen, the private interview with the master. Outside sesshin, sanzen might take place once or twice a day, but during sesshin, a monk may see the master 4 or 5 times daily. When summoned, a monk bows before entering the master's room, approaches with hands folded, and formally sits to present his understanding of a Zen koan, a puzzle or theme used for training insight. In this private exchange, all worldly conventions fall away, and only sincerity in grasping Zen matters. Vigorous encounters are common, sometimes involving a shout, a slap, or a symbolic gesture, anything to shake the student free from intellectual ruts. Absolute confidence is placed in the master's understanding of Zen. Should a monk doubt that understanding, this too is tested in sanzen. Historical accounts show how fiercely masters might treat their disciples in order to break through the disciples' stubborn delusions. One famous example is Hakuin, now revered as the father of modern Zen in Japan, who suffered repeated blows and indignities from his teacher Shoju until he finally broke through to great enlightenment. Despite the apparent harshness, when the breakthrough came, the master was as tender and joyful as a loving parent. Unlike academic study with a fixed period of graduation, a Zen monk may stay in the Zendo for 20 years and still not be considered finished. Average ability combined with consistent effort might result in grasping Zen's principal teachings in around 10 years, yet fully assimilating them into every moment of life is another matter. Zen calls further spiritual development the long maturing of the sacred womb, a phase that takes place both in and beyond the monastery walls. Some practitioners stay as hermits. Others venture into society to interact actively with the world, all to deepen the realization that was intellectually recognized but needs to become part of daily living. Zen history is rich with stories of masters who spent years isolated in mountains or among common people, working and living simply. They aimed not for asceticism, but for that further transformation Zen calls the maturing of one's character, preventing any backsliding into intellectual pride or moral laxity. Zen declares itself to be beyond words and letters, yet it produces a considerable body of recorded sermons and dialogues. Part of its vigor comes from the Chinese language, which is monosyllabic, direct, and forceful. A single word can convey tremendous meaning. While this can create ambiguity, Zen uses the very openness to deliver a vivid, immediate impact. Masters like Yunmen were famed for their cryptic one-word replies, which jolt the student's mind into heightened awareness. Zen texts are likewise filled with idiomatic and colloquial expressions, a rarity in traditional Chinese literature, which prized polished elegance. Because Zen masters taught in the vernacular to reach people's hearts, their records preserve much ancient popular speech that was otherwise lost. This reaffirms how Zen, while rooted in the Buddha's teaching, became a genuinely Chinese and later Japanese interpretation, reflecting the native mentality and literary style. Some sample sermons survive in Zen literature. They are generally very brief, sometimes consisting of a single word or a gesture. They can sound baffling, yet to the one who has gone through Zen discipline, they convey living truth. Examples of Uman's laconic style. Asked, "What is the sword of Uman?" He answered, "Hung." Asked, "Which one of the Trikaya is it that sermonizes?" He replied, "To the point." Asked, "We hear so much of the splendid stone bridge of Joshu, but I see nothing but a miserable old rustic log bridge." Joshu retorted, "You just see the rustic log bridge and fail to see the stone bridge of Joshu." Such exchanges sound oblique to outsiders, but Zen insists that they are plain and direct expressions of the truth beyond intellectual interpretation. Masters have little patience for discursive explanations. In Zen, truth must be grasped by an intuitive faculty that leaps beyond conceptual thought. This relentless pursuit of the essence has a moral and practical corollary. Everything, however small, must be carried out with a mind free of self-consciousness or ulterior motives. Zen calls this secret virtue, or deeds without merit, where one acts wholly in accord with truth, with no thought of reward or acknowledgement by others or even by oneself. A frequent metaphor is a stone bridge, solid and unshaken despite being trampled upon by countless travelers. The master's mind is that bridge, patiently bearing everything without complaint or pride. Another favorite metaphor is a clear pool reflecting the moonlight. Although the reflection penetrates the water, no trace remains after the light is gone. Similarly, to do good unawares is considered the highest virtue. Zen thus goes even beyond the mystical notion of union with God common in other traditions. It encourages the student to leave behind all idea of separation from or dependence upon anything, even a deity or a conception of Buddha. If there is so much as a lingering thought that God knows my actions, Zen would say that is not yet true freedom. Rinzai famously exhorts practitioners to slay the Buddha, slay the patriarch, meaning break even the subtlest attachment to holy names or forms and stand alone in total clarity. To rely on anything external is to perpetuate delusion. Though the words are fierce, the motivation is pure. The aim is total self-mastery and the realization of the inner light, free from all concepts or separations. As soon as one is traced by an external or internal observer, bondage reappears. Hence Zen affirms that enlightenment leaves no tracks, no meritorious deeds, no holy achievements, only spontaneous, free activity. Christian mystics sometimes speak of holy poverty or spiritual nakedness. Zen addresses this with terms like emptiness or shunyata. Poverty, or non-attachment, is not merely negative. Zen considers it the state of perfect freedom and joy. Fill up the well with snow is a Zen analogy for acting without any expectation of utility or reward. The joy of emptiness consists in spontaneous freedom, in living without hindrance. It is often celebrated in poetry. Hundreds of spring flowers, the autumnal moon, a refreshing summer breeze, winter snow.
Free thy mind of all idle thoughts.
And for thee how enjoyable every season is. When self-interest, pride, and worldly entanglements vanish, the spirit naturally blossoms into a serene appreciation of all things. In this sense, Zen's emptiness is the fullness of life, seen without grasping or self-consciousness. Zen training, then, is designed to bring about a state of non-attainment. All conceptual learning is seen as accumulation. Zen wants to free the mind of all accumulations. Paradoxically, its spiritual poverty is more positive than any wealth. The Zen follower who has emptied the mind becomes like a transparent crystal, able to reflect whatever passes without being stained or bound. This idea is sometimes expressed in more Indian, technical language, but the essence remains. A mind free from habitual patterns of thought becomes luminous and sensitive, transforming the practitioner's understanding from within. The Zen goal is not worldly perfection or scholarship, but a direct, unclouded insight. In conclusion, the life of the Zendo is one of vigorous discipline, simplicity, and sincerity. Though it may appear behind the times in our modern society, its guiding principles, simplification of life, constant diligence, self-reliance, humility, and secret virtue, are of lasting value. Such discipline protects Zen from degenerating into sterile intellectualism or aimless mysticism. It unites profound spiritual insight with practical life, firmly grounding lofty experiences in the humility of everyday labor. Above all, Zen insists that its truth is to be lived. No matter how many sermons are preserved in its literature, these are secondary to the living, personal experience of each practitioner. Learning by doing, whether manual work, meditation, or direct encounter with the master, ultimately reveals the flowing life of Zen. For centuries, this has set the Zen sect apart within Far Eastern Buddhism, making its adherents at once mystics, laborers, and robust realists of the spiritual realm.